Good evening and welcome to a special episode of the Taco Society Presents. I'm here with Phil Perron. Sydney's not with us tonight. She's got the day off, the night off, because it is a special program we're working on.
And you're Tony Tremblay.
I'm Tony Tremblay. I forget who I am. Thank you, Phil.
No problem.
It's a couple days after Halloween. What'd you do for Halloween? Anything special?
Took the toddlers out.
I saw that on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a blast.
Did you?
Yeah, it was a little chilly, but everything went well. And my oldest daughter was dressed up as a cupcake, and my youngest was dressed up as a strawberry. So,
food seems to be a common theme with your Facebook page, anyways.
Oh,
we love to put food stuff down.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But you know, Facebook is can be odd sometimes, so I try to make it with a little levity.
A little interesting. Yeah, we it was cold. Our neighborhood, all the neighbors go out the end of the driveways when the kids come. We hand them the little candies there, but we usually have a little libation or two, and we enjoy ourselves. We have a lot of fun. Yeah,
for my town, I'm one of your neighbors, Amherst. We actually do it downtown because the town, they consider it so rural, there's not enough neighborhoods. Yep. So they have this big festival downtown where all the folks in the big houses and the historic section give out the candy.
Do you do it out of your trunks of your car, or is there some tables?
They actually did a new thing this year. They set up a bunch of old doors that they painted, and they put them in the green, the town green, and they had folks that wanted to give out candy that didn't actually live in downtown to do it right there. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's all for the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a blast. Everybody seemed to have a fun time.
Good.
Yeah.
We had a kind of an interesting couple weeks. A lot of things going on. The Haverhill Book Fest that the River City Writers put on, which is
Haverhill, Massachusetts.
Chris Golden and Jim Moore, and I think E.J. Stevens is part of that also.
Oh, okay.
Had a big book fair in Haverhill, Mass.
In the town libraries, man.
In the town library. There were 36 authors, and it was a ball. It was a lot of fun. Both Phil and I were there selling our books and talking to a lot of people. It was very crowded, and we get to do it all over again in December sometime. Yeah,
that's right. I'm on the waiting list for that one. I'm number 2 on the waiting list.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody will drop out.
Yeah, maybe. But don't forget, besides selling books and meeting local readers, we also had a few panels that one you actually participated in.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the one I was a moderator on it, and it was
there you
go. Traditions of New England Horror.
Excellent.
So it was a lot of fun. There were some good people on the panel, and
I think one of our guests tonight was on that panel.
Scott Goudsward.
That's right. Yeah.
I said his name wrong, but I'll say it right later.
There you go.
And you get something.
Oh yeah. There's a new horror anthology that came out with some of our guests, including local authors such as Dan Keohane, who actually used to be in your writers group. He's from Manchester. We've interviewed him. Christy Peterson-Schoonover, among others.
Another friend of the show.
Yep. She was on she came up with Stacy Longo that time.
Yeah.
But it's called Pernicious Invaders. Basically a horror anthology of 20 tales that include anything from nanotechnology, where little computers get stuck into you, up to viruses and biology and parasites. So
this is sci-fi horror?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. It's it could have some religious horror too, like possessions and stuff. But my understanding is that most of it is like a sci-fi horror.
Good.
Yeah. So I believe that just came out November 2nd, which is today. Yeah.
And you and I have something coming out probably in a week or two, by the next show, anyways.
Yeah.
Called Dark Passages 2.
That's right.
We each have a story in that, and that's MJ Preston's group.
That's right. MJ Preston out of Canada, originally from Ontario area, now lives out in Alberta.
Yeah.
He was a strong member of the horror writers community online. I was actually the one that met him first out of anybody and introduced him to everybody that we know. And he actually has a couple of novels out, The Equinox and Arcadia event, and this is exciting that we're going to have.
I'm glad for him. Yeah.
Oh, and you know who else is in that? Christy Peterson-Schoonover, another.
You got Patrick Lacey. You get Kyle Ryder.
That's right. Yeah, all
Greg Norris.
People that have been on the show.
Yeah, a lot of friends of the show. In fact, it could have been called the Taco Society.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
We need to get MJ on the show somehow.
Yeah, maybe it should have said the Taco Society Presents the name of the book. Right?
We're just kidding, Mark. Okay. But we got a strong show for you tonight.
Indeed.
We're going to cut this short a little bit, and we're going to go right to the guests. So. You guys never left. We're still here, and we've got some great people here to interview tonight. The members of the New England Horror Writers Association, and they've got a brand new anthology out that kicks butt. You guys have done well. It's number 2, I think, when it was released, right?
Number 2, Amazon bestseller in horror anthologies.
Fantastic.
Behind Stephen King.
The real Stephen King?
Don't know.
You don't
know.
One of those Stephen Kings.
One of the Stephen Kings, the real one or the fake one.
Hopefully the real one.
I'm going to start with Scott, then we're going to go with David and Dan. Scott Goudsward.
Look at that.
By day, Scott is a slave to the cubicle world. By night, to the voices in his head. He writes primarily horror, but has branched out to sci-fi and fantasy. Scott is one of the coordinators of the New England Horror Writers and a member of 2 local writing groups. His short fiction has mostly appeared in Anthology Year 3, Atomic Age Cthulhu, Snowbound with Zombies, and the forthcoming Return of the Old Ones. His new novel, Fountain of the Dead, is out from Postmortem Press, and he is currently working on an unnamed novel and a new co-edited nonfiction book, Horror Guide to Northern New England. That's going to be great.
It's going to rock.
It is. Anthology projects include the new book, Wicked Witches, which we just mentioned, from the New England Horror Writers, and Twice Upon an Apocalypse, coming next year from Crystal Lake Publishing. Just take a quick second. Let's talk about some of your new projects here. You've got Twice Upon an Apocalypse.
Apocalypse 2, as I call it, was a sequel to a book that came out a couple of years ago from Chaosium. Then they had the big hullabaloo and everything kind of got swept away.
Yep.
So it's coming out next year from Crystal Lake Publishing. Co-editing it with Rachel Kenley. We've got 20-ish original stories from Bracken McLeod.
Wow, good. Yeah.
Don DeMassa, and a whole bunch of people I can't remember right now.
The pressure's on. How about the Horror Guide to Northern New England? That's the one I'm really interested in. That sounds like a lot of fun.
We started off in Massachusetts, and so far that's been the biggest seller of the 2 books. We did Florida last year, and we're doing Northern New England, so we're doing New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine.
Great.
And that one's coming out hopefully April-ish.
April-ish, okay.
So that should be coming at the same time as Apocalypse 2 and Return of the Old Ones.
Okay. Those have done very well for you, haven't they?
They have, especially Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Florida, not so much because
they're old people. They don't read horror.
Florida shows. Old people can't read.
Scott, if there's a horror show, chances are Scott's there filming his books. Congratulations on the new books coming out.
Thank you.
We're going to go to David. I was going to go to Dan, but I'll go to David. I can say David Price without screwing that name up. David grew up watching Creature Feature and reading comic books. He has been a fan of horror, fantasy, and science fiction his whole life. In college, his freshman composition teacher suggested he major in English and focus on his writing. Excuse me. After working for more than 25 years as a contractor, David has decided to use his imagination and follow his dreams. That's great. He's an active member of the New England Horror Writers. You've got a book out, at least one book out.
Yep, Dead in the USA.
How's that doing?
It's doing pretty well. Yeah, I get a lot of favorable reviews, so
Good.
I'm pretty happy about that.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's about a ghost who... Show it. It's about a ghost who tries to help the police catch her killer, and who is a serial killer.
Really? Scary?
It's kind of a thriller, I think. Yeah.
More thriller than scary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not for the squeamish. I have read it.
Yeah.
It's a good story.
What do you got coming out next? Anything?
I'm working on another anthology for the Horror Writers of Maine. It's called Northern Frights, and it's coming out from Grinning Skull Press. Good. Probably early next year.
Great. So you're busy.
Yep.
Good for you. Dan.
Get the name right.
Keohane.
I meant Dan, not Keohane.
Yeah, I know what you meant. Dan I can get. Dan is the Bram Stoker-nominated author of Plague of Darkness, Solomon's Grave, and Margaret's Art. We've talked about Margaret's Art before. It's a fantastic book.
Oh, thank you.
I recommend that highly to anybody that is looking for a good horror, fantasy,
it kind of crosses.
It kind of does, but it's a great book. I really enjoyed it. Writing as G. Daniel Gunn, he is also the author of a horror novel, Destroyer of Worlds, and the novella written with L.L. Soares, our buddy L.L. Soares, Nightmare in Grease Paint, which I've also read. His short stories have appeared in dozens of magazines and anthologies, including Cemetery Dance, Borderlands 6, Shroud, and Apex Digest. He and his family live in New England. What you got coming up?
I just finished, actually I decided to try science fiction, so I just finished my first science fiction novel.
And?
I mean, I have 2 more edits to make and then it's done. So actually I'm in the process of marketing it now. I'm looking for an agent.
A synopsis?
I hate doing that, but
elevator pitch. Come on.
Well, it's called Plague of Locusts, unrelated to Plague of Darkness, but
Okay.
it takes place in the future where, and I outlined this before Interstellar came out. But anyway, the Earth is pretty much in a shambles, and we find a wormhole outside of Jupiter, which leads to a duplicate system with a perfect Earth, and then find another wormhole, which leads to another system that's a duplicate system. But this Earth is like mostly stripped bare, and it's circled by these creatures called locusts that sort of travel the night line, and pretty much are devouring the planet.
Oh,
but
wow.
So that's where it opens, and it's the story of 2 people. One's an explorer who's in a ship looking for the next one, and they find a spaceship, an alien ship on the other side of the next hole. So now there's a surprise, and it also covers a priest, because what I wanted to write was, I know Daddy's writing more religious stuff. You don't see much, like, where does the church or where somebody's faith fit in a 200 years in the future story. So I was curious. So,
Yeah.
So I started with Armageddon, and I worked my way forward and said,
very cool.
What would it be? So it's
What's the other one?
the other one is under my G. Daniel gun. It's a straight horror novel. I think it's hilarious, the book. It's
Okay.
working title, Lost in the Woods. It was my Writer in the Woods type of novel that every writer has to do, only I made him an artist. But it's about people basically escaping hell on once every 70 years, and they have to show up at this cottage in the middle of New Hampshire and knock on the door and say, "I'm lost in the woods." You're supposed to bring him in, and in the morning you got to walk him up to the top of the driveway where a truck appears out of nowhere and drags him to hell or drags him to heaven. It's bizarre. You can't describe this book, but
It sounds like a lot of fun.
I think
though.
it's fun.
Yeah,
it's a
great.
Fun book. So
Good for you.
that's just about done too. So I've been.
Well, congratulations on both of them. Let's hope that they do really well. They sound like they would.
No, they're fun. It was fun to write. If they sell, they sell.
Okay.
If they don't, they don't.
We're gonna, excuse me. We're going to talk about Wicked Witches now, the anthology from the New England Horror Writers. They're all very proud of this. They're all holding it up there. Okay, for our local audiences, can you tell us what an anthology is?
An anthology is a collection of stories by various authors thrown together sometimes under a theme or just as a loose anthology, meaning there's no theme to it, there's no, like this one is all witch stories. A loose anthology, that's what I call it, is just random stories from different people.
So people would pick this up and there'd be 20, 30, however many are in there, different short stories that they could read.
Yep.
So if they didn't care for one, say, they'd just go to the next one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Didn't like the anchor story, they could skip to the first story. There's no obligation to read them in order, but it's more fun if they do.
Brings up another question that I didn't put in here, and if we have time, I'll get to it. Who are the New England Horror Writers?
Well, we're a collection of over 400.
475.
475 writers from around New England who we have banded together, and we have a Facebook page. We do anthologies. We do a lot of shows around the area, a lot of pop culture shows.
Some would say too many.
Book shows,
No,
yeah.
never
Well,
too many.
thanks to you, we do many shows.
Never too many.
And
So
kind of band together and promote ourselves. And
So if somebody's out there and says, "Oh, I want to be a horror writer," they haven't published a thing.
yep.
Can they become a member of the New England Horror Writers?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So how would they do that?
Easiest way is to go to our Facebook page and apply for membership. There's a couple of messages they should read through and just follow directions to send an email to us to make sure they're not like a Ray-Ban ad or an Oakley ad bot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be the NEHW on Facebook.
Yep.
Right, it's Facebook groups and then New England Horror Writers.
Okay.
There's also a website, newenglandhorror.org, and there's a link to Facebook from there.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, so you can
Well,
go
there
to
is great.
New
Okay.
England Horror.
So whether somebody's just starting out or they've got 100 books published,
Yep.
they can become a
You
member.
can join us. We just got our Patrick Gates as a member not too long ago.
Yep.
Excellent. Yeah, I remember him from way back. Loved his stuff.
Got Joe Citro's in the group.
Yeah,
Christopher
Joe, love Joe.
Golden,
Yep.
Jeez,
James
Chris
A.
Gray,
Moore, Stephen Bissett.
Yep.
huge authors in the horror field.
Yeah,
We do a newsletter roughly every 6 weeks. You can announce anything you want in the newsletter. It goes out to all our members.
Okay.
Pimp Yourself Wednesday on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And it costs
Nothing.
zero.
No, it's free.
Zilch.
Yeah. No requirements. It's just to get together. It's a network.
It's a network, so people can ask questions on Facebook, or
We encourage it.
you encourage it. Yeah.
Post markets for people to send stories to.
Yeah.
We've tried getting a writers group going through the NEHW, which is kind of
Online, you mean?
floundered, yeah.
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 But there's a couple of people who are really interested doing it. I've got a moderator that I put in place for it
Jeez.
because I didn't have time to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's all in New England, so it's. But you got people from in Connecticut, people in Maine. And,
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of New York people too who have
Yeah, a couple
Northern
stragglers.
ties.
Yeah, we got some New Yorkers. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let them in.
Let's talk about the anthology. It's a themed anthology. How'd you arrive at the theme? for you.
Well, me? Well, I gotta blame Scott. He comes to Dave and I. When was it? Like March?
I think it was February.
February, and said, and we hadn't actually planned an anthology this year.
It's supposed to be next year.
Because we'd just done one last
We
year.
had just
yeah.
done Wicked Tales last year.
I actually wanted to do a nonfiction book,
Yeah.
which is kind of bombed.
But yeah, and so this is our first presence at Salem last weekend, and so with us coming to Salem for the first time, Scott's like, we should do a witch anthology. But we had basically 6 months, 7 months, 6 months to get all the stories, read them, put it together, polish it, and get it out. And we're like, you're insane, but he's just so eager. We said
It was a tight schedule.
We did it.
We
Yeah.
really pushed it.
How did you decide how many stories to have in it?
Well, it started off as 17.
It was
Yes,
gotta be
and I
smaller.
pushed for a few more at the end.
So
And it wound up with how many?
21 stories and 2 poems.
21 stories, 2 poems, yeah. And
And an introduction from local horror hostess Penny Dreadful.
Okay, well, we're going to get in. That's one of the questions in here that hopefully we have time to get to.
Yeah.
How did you get the word out? I mean, you've got 21 stories. How do you get people to say, "Hey, we've got this anthology. Send stuff to us. Let's read your work."
Well, Facebook really was.
Yeah, it was all
the big thing.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Just Facebook.
Because it was only open to our members.
Yeah.
We decided to, we just wanted to go through the Facebook, so we kept it to our group, our Facebook group, and then we put the guidelines in our newsletter and our website.
So that's another reason to join the Face Group book
Yep.
to learn about anthology.
Face Group.
Yeah,
Your
Face-
anthology.
absolutely.
Did I screw that up? Facebook group. Jeez.
Oh yeah, it was a very. People were excited. The word
Yep.
spread pretty quick.
It did.
And,
Yeah, good. Now, if somebody decides to submit to you guys, do they need an agent? Can they just send it in? How does that work?
Just send it in.
Yep. We
You
have
mean for the
guidelines. We
anthology?
have an email address to send the stories to, and
So
just follow the guidelines and send us a story.
Open call. Yeah.
So that's what it's called, an open call.
Yeah.
Open call to members. Right. Just
Yep.
send us. Here's the guidelines. Send it in. There was a deadline. I forget what the deadline was. July.
Well, it started off in June, and then someone decided that we needed 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
Notice who I'm staring at.
Oh, sorry.
And that was my next question. How do you decide how much time to? Because you had a real tight schedule. How do you say, okay, this is it? It's got to be done after this period.
Well, you got to work backwards because I mean, look, you have to get a cover.
Yeah.
Cover wasn't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
the first deal, but then
Yeah. And you
the
gotta-
standard reading time is about 3 months for an
3
anthology.
months. Okay.
Yeah.
So if someone submitted the first day, they'd have to wait 3 months before you got back to them, or
If someone submitted the first day, then we knew it was a trunk story,
Yeah.
and they didn't get in.
explain what a trunk story is for those that
a
don't
story
know.
that's been sitting around someone's computer or printed out on their desk for years and years
Some,
and years.
yeah.
And nobody else bought it.
Right.
And okay. So it's just sitting there, and they say, ah.
It's like, hey, look, a themed anthology I might be able to sell this to, and they submitted it, and we turned it down.
And you can usually tell a trunk
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, I usually get depressed when the first trunk stories come in, and Scott has to assure me that better stories are coming.
I mean, it wasn't that bad of a story, but it didn't really fit our guidelines.
Yep.
But it was literally an hour after we sent the call out, we got our first couple of stories. It's like, okay, you wrote a 7,000 word story in an hour.
There's no guarantee that it's good or bad. It's only that it's just that they didn't just write it.
She
Right.
didn't write it for the anthology.
So that
it was
it's
written
almost like
before.
hold on to it for a couple of
Yeah.
weeks and
Right. Then the subs got slow coming in, then like
You were nervous for a while.
a couple of weeks before
Yeah, he was
we closed, but they just hammered us with them.
yeah. Well, so you kept posting on Facebook. Where's my stories? Where's my? You getting everybody else nervous. Oh, I better hurry. He's getting mad at us.
That's my job.
That's it. The whip cracker.
Okay, now you got a bunch of stories in. You look at the trunk stories, and you can tell right away, they're no good. How do you accept the rest of them? You get 60 stories, say, and you got to pick 21. What's the procedure? How do you do it?
We have to read them, and we have to agree on them.
Yep.
If one person says no and two or says yes, then they don't get in.
Aside from the theme, what makes a good story, though?
Following the guidelines, really, and making the theme the focal point of the story. So we wanted witches. We didn't want like a witch living in a cave that they find and that the characters do stuff around.
Don't drop a witch in it.
The witch needed to be the focal point of the story.
We wanted the witch to be a main character, not just kind of a boogeyman in the background, you know.
Okay, but people can put those in there and still, it doesn't read right, or it still doesn't sound good. You're looking at editing, I'm assuming. You're looking at a lot of different, like any anthology editor would.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay.
No, we got people at varying degrees of ability, you know, and you can tell. And we worked with a couple of people. There were a couple of stories that need a little more work than others, but
okay, that's
we
what
like the story. We like the story.
Okay.
So if we like the story, we're willing to give you a little more effort.
Okay, that's where I'm headed.
Yeah, it isn't like, because I know when we used to submit stories ourselves, and we still do, but I mean, you don't want to think that the editor's going to say first typo or first mistake.
Right.
Forget that. Maybe the New Yorker, but I think even then, you want to tell a story and you want to do it as best you can, but you want to tell as good a story as you can.
Sure.
So yeah, we'd get a story and be like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I think there were very few stories that we didn't get through. We read most of them from title to end.
All three of you?
Yeah. Well, early on, the reading was you guys. And because I just wasn't able to, at the time, I wasn't able to do the reading. So you guys bore the brunt of that initial flood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the tiebreaker, and then I did the final edits. And
Okay.
So.
So if you worked with somebody, say somebody sent something in and you didn't like the ending, what would you tell the author, and how was the response back from that author?
We gave people a chance at rewrites.
Yeah.
If we liked a lot of your story, but something that didn't work for us, we asked for a few rewrites. Yeah, asked people gave a lot of people second chances.
Okay.
Gave some people 5 or 6 chances.
Yeah. And some,
really?
And
Okay.
I think you got about a 50-50 chance of getting in if you send us a rewrite.
Pretty much.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And that went over well. I mean, some authors I don't touch my story. I don't want to.
No, there were. We had guidelines. We wanted 3,000 word stories, and we got a couple in that fell short of that. So we shot it back to, I won't say their names.
No, don't. No.
But they, they rewrote it. They fluffed up the stories, and they're really good stories now. They're about 3,000, maybe 3,100 words.
Good.
It's good stuff.
Good.
Sometimes you have to have them cut it down. Sometimes
Yeah.
you want to.
Because I had a bunch of those.
Yep.
Okay.
You have to trust the editors too, just to know, like, if they say it's your story in the end, and you can if we need this done. If they say no, it's your story. You can say no, but you have to at least be open to suggestion, because usually this is a great story. You just need to change this. There's a reason for it, because the editors are your first readers. It isn't like they're going to be the first ones that say that part bothered me.
Yeah.
So listen.
And
to
that's tough, though. I mean, that's tough to be able to have to rather go to an author and say, I didn't like your ending. Can you change it? As an author, you're sitting there going, but I love that ending. I really liked it, but they don't like it. What am I going to do? And
that's when you rewrite it.
Yeah, you're right.
Or you
rewrite it, or you don't,
story.
or you do.
Yep.
Yeah. So an editor's job is pretty tough. I mean, people think, you just sit there, read, and say yes or no. You guys are saying, no, that's not it. You've got a lot to do.
Yeah, or this doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
The tense is wrong.
Yeah.
The point of view is wrong.
Yeah, little subtle
too many
things.
verbs,
Yep.
too many pronouns, too many adverbs.
Adverbs,
Yep.
yeah.
I hate adverbs.
So do I.
Yeah,
That's what gets to me.
Scott does hate adverbs. I can
Probably
vouch
more
for
than
that.
you do. And wandering body parts.
Yes.
That's my least favorite thing.
Of what?
Wandering body parts. Normally you would say John looked at the girl, and you'd get something that said John's eyes looked at the girl. So his eyes are actually looking on their own accord and volition at this girl, whereas he's doing something else. That's a wandering body part.
Oh, okay, and you have a problem with that.
Right, his hand reached for this.
I gotta take a note here.
Versus he reached.
Scott catches every
It
water.
should be he reached for this, or she, you know, kicked this, not her. Her foot nudged this out the way. Nudge it out of the way with your foot. I hate that.
And it's multiple iterations too with editing. Editing is first the slush and picking the stories, and then you go through it and you go through it. I mean, all three of us went through every story.
Yep.
And
You probably all found different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was the first line because their grammar skills are better than mine, so Dave had him second, then Dan did him last.
polished.
Yep.
Right, nearly as many. I got it.
Okay, we're running low on time, so let's go talk about the cover artist. How do you pick a cover artist, and do you tell him what you want, or does he come back to you and say, this is what I did?
Well, with Keohane, he did
I can't pronounce his name.
I don't want to mess up his last name, because I know, but I'll just say Keohane.
Okay.
It's on there, but where is it?
Murakami.
Murakami, Murakami. He did Wicked Seasons, which was 2 anthologies ago, and beautiful work. So we went to him and said, we're doing a witches anthology. I don't know if when we talked to him at first, I think we said, this is the general anthology, this is witches. There was no real theme except witches, so we want it dark. We're thinking some pictures of, like, we mentioned a cat, we mentioned a witch, somewhere, the woods, because he's known for using trees and branches. But let's show me some ideas. And he had a couple of initial sketches. This one was better than this, can you do something?
I hated the first sketch we got too. And he came back with this cover. It's amazing.
Oh, right. I think this was based on their first sketch too, wasn't it? Yeah. But it's just, because they do it quickly, they're not going to spend months on a cover and say, what do you think? We're going to go, oh, but it's just a pen and ink, and to give you the idea. And so we're like, okay, it's good, build it up, and we came out with this.
Came back with that.
Yeah. And I laughed too, because the moon was, I have to point this out, the moon wasn't here, it was on the back. And so as we're going back and forth trying to say, because we wanted to agree, we kind of, Dave's like, well, can you put the moon on the front? And the front was all black and white. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to work.
It needs some color.
But he did it, and it really does. It just pops right out.
Yeah, it sure does.
But it's really the first full thing he did. It was beautiful.
It's an excellent cover. It's a beautiful cover.
Yeah. So you work with them on that. They go back and forth, and they
good.
It's especially with computers, it makes it a lot easier.
And you did all the cover artwork for Shock Total magazine back in the day too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we found out about him.
Yeah.
How about the introduction? Is that important?
I think it is. It's just from my point of view anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Every anthology I've done has got, or most of the books has an intro to them. And Penny Dreadful seemed like the perfect person for this one.
Did you tell her, give her guidelines on it? You're on your own. Just write an introduction.
We're doing a book on witches. Throw in what you want since you're a witch horror hostess.
Did she read the book first, or?
She read half of the book.
Yeah. Okay. Introductions are hard.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so fascinated by them. They're not easy to write.
Oh, I've known her for years. She helped us out when we did the first Shadows Over book. Me and Brother David. She filmed her show up at Mystery Hill in New Hampshire, and we were on the show.
Ah, okay.
And then we talk at conventions from time to time when she's there.
Yep. Okay. How about the physical layout? Who does that? You?
That was Dan.
That was the internal design. Yeah, that was. The layout is there was a certain thing, like for the paper and you have the electronic ebook, and they're kind of a little different, and that's a matter of taste. But the books generally, you have standard stuff in the beginning, and you have your table of contents. And the first thing when you do the layout, the trick part was with these amazing stories, and they're all over the board. The past, the future. We even have a science fiction one in the future, sort of a cyberpunk witch story, which is very cool. You have stuff, so you cross the board across the calendar, 1620s to modern day. So you want to have a balance. You don't want to have all of the older stories first, and you could do whatever you want. So we kind of had to try to work on the mix, on the tone. So you have to have read the stories and know how they sound. So it's just a juggling act.
It's a balancing act.
You want to, if you're going to read front to back, like Scott said about it, it's good to read some of these things front to back, because they are put there for
a reason.
For an effect.
Yeah.
So you're kind of flowing through the history of witchcraft in the United States, and it's interesting, in the world.
Well, from a personal standpoint, I always read in front to back.
Yeah.
But I've talked to people that say, hell no. I just, you know, I go to my favorite author first, and then I skip around and I'll read.
What I do.
And yeah, so all your hard work, you get a guy like Scott and goes, screw that.
When I was a kid, I used to read the Alfred Hitchcock ones, and I would read the table of contents, and whichever story was shorter, that's what I went to. I base it on that.
When I read cemetery dance, I go to the people I know first, and I read their stuff.
Okay, we're going to, we're running low on time here, so I'm going to skip a few questions and just go to the book's printed, it's ready to go, now what? How do you sell it?
We did a lot of online marketing the first week it came out, which got us up to #2 on Amazon for the horror anthologies.
Fantastic, yeah.
And it's just, we have a very enthusiastic crowd of authors for this one, and there's no polite way to say it, but they were just whoring the bejesus out of this book. It was all over Facebook, all over Twitter.
Yeah.
And you recently did a big convention, not a convention, but a big show in Salem.
Oh, yeah.
We did the Salem Outdoor Market this year, and you know, if things turn out, and if I get the math right, we might go back next year.
Good.
Be less people next year. But it was a lot of fun. We sold a lot of books.
Good.
We did a soft launch at the Haverhill Public Library, Merrimack Valley Book Festival. And we sold a lot of books there too. So the books are out there, the word's out there.
That was an excellent festival. Are you back for the one in the December?
Yeah.
Good.
I'm back for that one.
Good.
I'll be hawking Wicked Witches and
good. We were right next to each other. That was a lot of fun. I had a great time there. Last question before we go to the readings.
42.
Okay.
Let's just
Do you have a favorite story in the anthology?
Well, I'm reading from Trish Wooldridge's poem "Witch," which I think was awesome. But I'd say "White Witch," Cat Grant too. That was an awesome. I loved all these stories. They were so good. So, but those
one
two
usually
stuck out.
sticks out though.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it's your favorite for a reason.
Yeah.
And that would be Cats. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I'm going to read from my favorite story, Morgan Sylvia's "To Dance the Witch's Circle Again."
Great.
And yeah, as soon as I read it, I was just, wow.
Blown away.
This is the story, the kind of stories I want in this anthology.
She's a wonderful person too. That's fantastic. That's
And
great. And Cat.
We had told her at NECON that since we got her story so early, that we started judging the other stories by
hers.
Yeah, that is a problem sometimes.
It is. It's, you know.
How about yours? What's your favorite?
I've got like 4 or 5, but the one that sticks out is Barry DeJesus' story.
Barry and Cat. Wow.
Oh yeah.
I'm also a big fan of Eric Nunnally's, John McLevine's.
Okay, you can't name them all. I just said
just
one.
3.
Yeah, okay.
That's all you get.
We put them in here, so you know we
It
love
was
them.
hard. It was a hard choice.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate you taking the time to go over with maybe minutiae to you, but for our audience and others out there that don't know how anthologies are put together, this is really very, very informative. And obviously, I wish you I don't even have to wish you luck. You guys are doing great. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it may seem seamless to you, but for us, there'll be a turn of a page, and we'll be right back.
All right, we're back, and I'm here to basically introduce each of you folks and who they're reading and why and so forth. So, Scott, why don't we start with you? I know you have someone from Rhode Island that you're going to read?
I do. I'm going to be reading from The Place of Bones by Barry Lee DeJesus.
He was just married, wasn't he?
He was. He was married last August, I believe.
And did you attend?
I did.
And how was it?
That was a fun time.
Good, good. Yeah, he came up from Rhode Island at the Haverhill Halloween Fest.
He did, yeah. I know Barry from NECON, many years at NECON.
Oh, wow. So you've known him for a long time.
Yeah, and he attended Anthocon when Anthocon was around.
Yeah, very good.
Now he's just hanging out with the rest of us misfits.
Yeah. So before you get into the story, does he have any novels, or is he mostly short fiction?
I don't think he's got any longer pieces. I believe he's just mostly short fiction. I know he did book reviews, and he was working with the Lovecraft Arts and Sciences Foundation down in Rhode Island too.
Very good. Okay, so what's the name of the story, and a little maybe a synopsis?
The story is called The Place of Bones, and the way I picture it is as almost like a throwback to an 80s horror movie.
Oh, nice.
With witches.
There you go.
Witches.
So I'm going to read a couple of pages. And if you want to read the rest of the story, you have to buy the book on your favorite online retailer. When the conversations began to die around the campfire, I suggested that we all tell ghost stories. And, said Kenta, a history sophomore, I think you should tell the first one, Margaret. There were a couple of throaty approvals from around the fire. I'd expected nothing less. Several days ago, Kenta had come to the school library and told me that he and some friends were gathering for a woodland party. He was quick to emphasize that no alcohol would be present and that I was welcome to join them. I suspected he wanted me along because of my penchant for local folklore, but it had been quite some time since I'd had a chance to socialize with anybody. So I told him that I would be honored to be his party's token hippie lady. We met at dusk at the base of a long trail that led from the dorms, then walked around the base of the nearest mountain until we were nearly a mile into the perfect location. I must have seemed like a complete kook when I met Kenta's friends, including a girl he'd met in town who'd introduced herself as Sharon. I stammered a lot and had to excuse myself as I started the fire. Claiming to feel a little dizzy, I retreated along the path and stared into the woods for a few minutes, fighting back tears as memories came to me. Memories that I'd not thought about in almost 30 years, as overgrown and shadowed as the forest around me. If I can turn the page. Those dark and painful memories had haunted me all evening. Well, I said, standing and grabbing a log from the pile to shove into the fire, I do have a story that I could tell, but I'm not sure everyone would appreciate it. Well, I have a good one, Sharon said. I turned as the flames was out to taste their fodder, and saw her round, pale face beaming in the orange glow. Earlier, Sharon said she was a dropout. She claimed that her love of the land had been more than enough of a reason to stay, even when her education had come to a grinding halt for reasons that she hadn't divulged. I kept an eye on her, wondering at times how she felt among the students who were doing what she was not. Although she laughed at the occasional joke or tale of misfortune, she mainly kept to herself all evening, until now. And we'll stop it there.
Perfect, 3 minutes exactly.
Excellent.
Wow. So this is was this one of the first stories you guys picked?
It was kind of later on in the book. I'm not sure if Barry sent it kind of early on in the process, or like 11:59 on the last day of subs, like a lot of people did.
Yes.
But from here, there's a lot of campfire ghost stories, and then legends and folklore, and it's a fantastic story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to probably finish it up. I haven't read that story yet, so very good. Now, Dave, you have someone that you want to read. Whose is it, and what's it called?
It's Morgan Sylvia's story. It's called To Dance the Witch's Circle Again.
Okay, and where is this author from?
She's from Maine.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Very good. Okay. Any further details you wanted to give out?
Well, this is more of a historical type witch story.
Very good.
I know she has a book coming out next year from Bloodshot Books called Abode.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, she's really got this. There's so much detail in this. It was really one of my favorite stories.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay.
Good story.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay. They said he was a conjurer. They said he trafficked in nightmares and bartered flesh and souls with the lords of hell. They accused him of hexing his neighbor's children and causing 4 sheep to take ill. After only a few days in prison, he confessed to these things and more. He claimed he'd made a pact with the devil and conjured up a storm, and then laid an illness on old Mary Martin. I found out years later that they'd sent for a professional witch pricker to pierce his skin with needles, looking for a spot that he would not bleed and was impervious to pain. This would mark the place where the devil had touched him to seal their pact. A few days later, they'd taken Grana's fine silver, along with our milk cow and several bushels of barley and beer, to pay the witch pricker and executioner, and to account for the expenses of keeping Granda in jail. The minister insisted the accusations were true, but I recalled only kind words and kind eyes. Sorcerer, they whispered, and then they hung him from a tree. I'd been fool enough to think the hunts were over. Now, as Janet rushed back across the moors to the village, I felt a chill settle into my soul. There was a sudden scratching above me, and from the thatched roof, which was followed by the hoot of an owl. The sound startled me, and I jumped, jarring Pyewacket. The ferret glared at me. I was tempted to drop him, but I'd learned that lesson already. Once I'd accidentally let him slip from my arms. As soon as he hit the ground, I felt an unseen hand shoving me, and I too took a terrible spill, bruising my hip, twisting my ankle, and spraining an elbow. I had to hobble my way back into market. Worst of all, I hadn't been able to dance at the Beltane Circle. I loved the dances and the freedom of spinning free and wild, the drums and flutes filling the air with song that fueled me like fire. Pyewacket wriggled in my arms. I put him down gently. Outside, the familiar patter of rainfall filled the air as I brewed a cup of tea and sat down, turning the week's events over in my head. I'd known, even as I refused Janet Harlow's request to borrow some corn mash, that it was probably foolish to deny her. But she'd proved time and again that such loans would never be repaid, although her husband's shoemaking business was faring well enough. That woman wouldn't have paid her debts if she'd had all the gold in the king's treasury. So I told her I simply hadn't a bit to spare. She peered down her long nose at the basket of eggs and apples I was selling. Your hens are laying well enough, she said. None affected by the blight? I shook my head. Nay. Did you want eggs? She ignored this. She also ignored Jane Henney and Elspeth Klein, who were waiting to buy eggs. Her daughters, Elizabeth and Margaret, stood silently behind her, glaring at me. They both had some red hair and pale skin as Janet, although it suited them far better. They would have been pretty enough, but for the sour looks that had never left their faces. Janet's son, James, picked out from around her skirt and, smiling shyly, asked for an apple. I knew that to refuse 2 requests would draw her ire, so I handed him red fruit. He bit greedily as Janet pummeled me with questions about my goats and chickens. After Janet's 11th or 10th question, I wished her a good day and, looking past her, cheerfully greeted Jen and Elspeth. Janet gave a hiss of disapproval, then turned back on me and headed off across the muddy market square, her children close behind her. The girls were both carrying several packages. I saw Janet enter the flesher's shop and suspected that she'd shortly emerge with a choice cut of meat, mutton or venison, perhaps.
Wonderful. Now, have you ever met her?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she came down to Nikon. She was at Nikon, and I've seen her at a few things up in Maine.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, now, Dan, I know you have a story, and it's going to be tough to beat these two. And I don't mean that sarcastically. I'm serious, because those are pretty good.
Well, I have an announcer's voice.
Well, there you go. There you go. But I do believe you actually are going to read a story from someone that was actually a guest on our last show.
Yes, Trisha J. Wooldridge.
Oh, that's right.
She was on the show before, recently.
Yeah, very last month, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, she's an amazing poet. She's from the Worcester area, like me. So.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, and this is a poem. It's sort of an epic poem. We're treating it as like a short story, but it's a long epic poem, and it's just beautiful. And it really struck me.
She had a name for the
for these kind
format of it, and I never remember it.
Yeah, she told me
prose
too
poem
recently, and I forget the name of it too. But similar to like Beowulf or something like that,
yeah.
or the Raven. She compared it similar to something like that.
But there's actually like it's not long form poetry. It's something like a story wrapped into a poem.
Exactly.
And I don't remember what the name of it is.
An onion. It's got layers.
It's an onion. No, it's a parfait.
Shrek references. That's too funny. All right, so why don't we hear? Are you going to read the whole thing, or
no? It's long.
It is an epic, right?
Long,
okay,
yeah.
very good.
Yeah,
And,
it'll be just 3 pages.
I do have a quick question for you. You may have already gone over this with Tony, but were you asking for specific poets for this, or did they just sent it in and you thought it was great?
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Yeah, we did. It was poetry or stories, so you could submit a poem too.
Excellent.
So,
all right.
Okay. This is called Witch. They called her a witch. One time, she nearly wandered into the woods, the forbidden, dark, bedeviled woods. She said she was following a squirrel. She liked its little furry face and the look in its big, shiny eyes. And the squirrel liked the burnt crusts of bread she'd thrown. She was not a very good cook. Things often burned in her presence or tasted off. But the squirrel had appreciated her kindness, and shouldn't one always do kindness to all of God's creatures? They called her a witch. Never in her presence, and certainly not in her father's. He flew to sinful rage when anyone suggested his wife's passing in childbirth was due to anything devilish. He loved his daughter well, though she could not cook, though she did not speak until almost 4 years of age, though she often forgot what she was doing, resulting in burnt food or poorly sewn clothes, or sheep that got sick from getting chicken grain instead of their own feed. She hadn't meant any harm, and she cried when 2 ewes died. Too much, far too many tears for a human to shed over dumb beasts, if you ask certain people. They called her a witch. Goodman Baker had noticed the girl, hardly still a girl. She would trade her family's goat's milk and her father's leatherwork skills for his baked bread when hers burnt, a frequent enough occurrence. She trusted Goodman Baker, as she trusted everyone, and he taught her that it was important for good girls never to speak ill of others and to keep secrets no matter what. And if she were not a good girl, she would have to be a witch. And witches belong to the devil. So she kept secret the things that happened behind Goodman Baker's house when Goodwife Baker was not home. Even when she stopped her woman's blood, even when her clothes grew tight, even when she began to hear the others, they called her a witch. It was an uncomfortable conversation for a father to have with a daughter, especially so when she was trying to be a good girl and keep a secret. She was not a witch. She did not belong to the devil. I'll stop there.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. You're actually a pretty good reader yourself.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so that's great. I love the title of that, the poem.
Witch.
Right? Yeah, there you go. Right?
Seemed very appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely, sure did.
Yeah.
So we would like to, once again, on Tony and my behalf, to thank you for showing up
Thanks for having us.
and letting folks know about a great book. I mean, it's fantastic what you guys put together
Hold
here.
up again.
Yeah. There you go. So it's on all online retailers, so everybody can go check that out.
It
Check it
is.
out.
All right, great. So Scott, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Mr. Dave.
Thank you, Phil.
Dan.
Thanks a lot.
All right, and me and Tony will be right back to wrap up.
That was a great show.
It sure was, yeah.
Boy, these guys, they really know their stuff. I'm involved in anthologies, you're involved in anthologies, but it's always fun to let people know what goes on behind the scenes.
And they were perfect folks to do it because they went into real good detail. They explained a bunch of stuff. Even our producer mentioned offline to me that he thought it was fantastic because he had no idea how this stuff works.
Yeah.
How you find artists, how you find stories, how you connect to the authors to even know that you're out there and stuff. So,
Yep. And this anthology they're working on is a fantastic anthology. The authors, well, you heard the readings. I mean, these authors that they picked up they're top-notch people. They're great people, and I wish we could have read a little bit from every one of them, but
I know. Yeah, we only have so much time, right?
An hour show, but we want to thank Scott, Dan, and David for coming on. Hopefully they'll come on again in the future.
Oh, absolutely, that'll be great. Yeah, we've actually had them before, so maybe we'll have them 3 or 4 more times. Right?
Well, I think Scott's been on more than any other
person
guest we've had on, although it was his first time in the studio.
Yes, you're right. This is his first time in the studio. Yeah.
So, thank you, everybody. We really enjoyed tonight's show. We hope you did. We won't be back now for about 4 or 5 weeks our time, anyways. Sometime in December.
Mid-December or so, probably.
And we've still yet to decide what kind of show we're going to have in December. But whatever happens, we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.